Hello, everyone, and welcome to Last Prisoner Project's 2024 end of year webinar. My name is Sarah Gersten. I'm the Executive Director and General Counsel for the Last Prisoner Project. I'm so thrilled to be here today with three of my incredible colleagues to take a look back on the year, the successes we had in 2024, and what's coming up next for us in 2025. So to start, I wanted to just go over each of our three core program areas and what we accomplished to date and what we accomplished specifically in 2024. The first is our constituent services program, and this is where we actually provide pro bono representation to individuals who are unjustly incarcerated for cannabis offenses. We start at the moment that someone is sentenced by providing a pro bono attorney to seek early release. And through that program, we have now assisted over 300 individuals. And we've also included those individuals in our advocacy programs. So this includes our letter writing program, which Stephanie is going to talk about more in a little bit. And it also gives our constituents the opportunity to share their stories and, of course, to get recognition and attention around their own stories and cases, but also to really raise awareness and increase public education and knowledge about LPP's mission and the problem of unjust incarceration due to the war on drugs. Through our direct constituent services program, we also provide direct commissary funding to our currently incarcerated constituents. To date, we've provided over $500,000 through that program. A lot of folks don't know that when you're incarcerated, it can be really difficult to afford your basic needs, the proper food, hygiene supplies, but also communication, even for our constituents to be able to communicate with their legal team, but also their loved ones back home. Phone calls, emails, stamps, all of these cost money when you're incarcerated. And so the commissary funding goes directly to those constituents to help pay for these needs. That commissary program is part of our broader constituent services program and our constituent support fund. And that also encompasses family grants to the children of those who are currently incarcerated to help pay for things like tuition, school supplies, clothing when they have a parent incarcerated. And then also our reentry grant program. So when someone's coming home when they're released from prison, they also often are coming out of the prison gates with nothing but the clothes on their back. And so giving that direct cash assistance just to kickstart that reentry process, help folks get back on their feet, find housing, food, transportation, again, those basic needs to then go on and find gainful employment, help reestablish their lives is so critical. And an important stat I think to share is that within our constituent services program, we have a less than 1% recidivism rate. And when you compare that with the national average, I think it really showcases how important things like this direct cash assistance are, but also the model that Last Prisoner Project has, where we really have a continuum of services that begins at the point, again, that someone is sentenced and incarcerated, but it continues past release, past the time that someone's coming out of the prison gates and really helping someone to fully get back on their feet, clear their records, and regain their freedom. And so I really think this program has shown how successful that model can be. We had a lot of our constituents luckily be released early this year. You saw some throughout here. We have Brian Reed, Harold Thomas came up earlier, and we have some more folks coming home even at the last few weeks of this year as well. Our other two major program areas are policy and advocacy. Stephen and Jason are going to talk a little bit more about those programs in depth, but I wanted to highlight some major moments that we had for those programs in 2024. It started in April with our 420 Day of Action in DC, and this is where Last Prisoner Project pulled together and coordinated and galvanized all of the cannabis advocates from the left, the right, the industry to come together to fight for cannabis justice on Capitol Hill and in front of the White House. This included a press conference with some of our champions in Congress, a lobby day where we visited hundreds of offices to encourage our representatives to be calling for the full legalization of cannabis, but also to free those unjustly incarcerated for cannabis. And we ended the week with our vigil in front of the White House, where we were calling on President Biden to use the clemency power to release those incarcerated for cannabis. That was followed up with some of our state level action. Over the summer, we saw Governor Moore of Maryland pardon over 175,000 cannabis offenses. That was an action that we worked very closely with the governor's office on, and we're really excited to build on that action and do even more for the residents of Maryland who have been impacted by unjust cannabis prohibition in 2025. Another key state for us in 2024 was Hawaii. We were actually able to pass the first ever state-initiated record clearance law in the state of Hawaii. This is to clear the records of those that have passed cannabis offenses, and it's through a process that is state-initiated. So what that means is there's no fee, there's no petition process. The burden is on the state to make sure that that record clearance happens. And this is something when we started working early in 2024 in Hawaii, the legislature, some of the electeds in power in that state were really pessimistic about the opportunities of getting something like this passed because, again, for any criminal justice, for any criminal offense beyond cannabis, this had just never been done before in Hawaii. But our incredible policy team was able to make it happen, get that bill signed. And again, that's a piece of legislation that we are eager to continue working on and expanding in 2025. We will be working with a task force in that state to expand and implement that law. Finally, we closed out the year with a pretty incredible event. This was our Journey to Justice Gala. This was an evening where we got to celebrate all of the progress that Last Prisoner Project has made over the past 5 years. We included several of our constituents and their family members, and that's really what the evening was about. It was about honoring those who have come home from unjust incarceration, who are now using their voice to advocate for change and for those that are still left behind, folks like Michael Thompson, Richard DeLisi, Andy Cox, Kyle Page, Rashida Sinclair. It was a really phenomenal night to see all of them up there getting honored for the work that they're doing. And we had some of our long-standing LPP ambassadors, folks like Damien and Stephen Marley, who performed and made the night extra special. And not to spoil anything that Jason's going to talk about, but if you missed that incredible evening, you will have a chance to get to come to our next gala next year. And with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, our policy director, Adrian.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Sarah. As Sarah highlighted, we had two very big wins that we're very proud of. Our work with Governor Moore's office in Maryland to institute the largest categorical pardon grant in American history, as well as our groundbreaking work in Hawaii to institute that state's first ever state-initiated record clearance law. But we had a lot of other projects that we'd like to highlight, and just really wanted to single out three of the ones that we worked on this past year and continue to work on from previous efforts. So at the beginning of the year in Connecticut, we convened national experts for a psychedelic policy reform summit. So this was actually hosted by LPP, and we gathered national experts, including doctors from Harvard, Johns Hopkins Medical University, attorneys from around the country who really specialize in psychedelic policy and law. We had previously worked in Connecticut to dismiss pending charges for cannabis offenses as part of which were left out of their original cannabis conviction clearance law. And in doing that work, we saw the need for additional reform around psychedelics, especially as the state was starting to consider that conversation. And we really wanted to make sure that in addition to the efficacy of medical support that psychedelic could provide to individuals, we wanted to make sure that the criminal component of individuals being charged for seeking medicine was not left out of that conversation. And to do that, we had our own conversation to make sure that not only were individuals and lawmakers there aware of the growing support and research for psychedelics as medicine, but also to ensure that the criminal component or the criminal charges associated with seeking out these substances also have a remedy as well. In Virginia, we continue to work with some of our advocates there on a bill to resentence individuals with cannabis offenses or cannabis-related offenses and associated time served for that. And we did manage to pass a bill. It was SB 696. I encourage folks to look at it. It's a really great bill. But we did run into a veto from Governor Youngkin. So I do like to tell folks that we did earn a veto on this bill. We managed to get it through both chambers of the General Assembly in Virginia. Combined, it would have affected about 1,600 people who were both incarcerated or serving parole, who would have had their sentence reduced or altogether eliminated. And though we are disappointed by Governor Youngkin's action, it does not mean that we're going to stop the fight for our constituents in Virginia, and we're happy to go back to the General Assembly in Richmond and introduce that bill again next year to fight for further relief for those individuals. And lastly, I just want to highlight again our work in California. In 2022, we passed AB 1706. That still is the gold standard for cannabis relief for individuals who have suffered because of the war on drugs and the prohibition of cannabis. To date, that bill has cleared 216,157 cases. I really want to highlight that there is a total of 227,650 cases. So a lot of numbers getting thrown out there, but the bill that we created fixed, cleared, released 95% of the eligible cases in California. And that's tremendous because before that bill, there was about a 2% uptake from individuals who were eligible relief who actually received that relief. So we saw the state of California go from about an effectual relief grant rate of around 2% to 95% because of the work that LPP put into AB 1706 with Assemblymember Bonta. And so we're really proud of that work and continue to hold up California as the gold standard to demonstrate to other states that this is possible. You can do it. It just takes the courage and the conviction to actually see these things through. So we're really proud of the work in California, and we continue to work with legislators there to figure out other avenues for relief, as well as use it as a model for other states to say the work can be done. And I'll pass it over to Jason for what's coming ahead in 2025.
Yeah, lots of exciting stuff coming on board. So my name is Gersten Ortiz. I'm the Director of Strategic Initiatives for the Last Prisoner Project. I also focus a lot on our federal work and a lot of our coalition work. And as folks may have heard, there was an election recently, and we're going to see a change in administration, a whole new Congress. And so we're going to be out there day one, making sure that we're contacting all of our Congress people and continuing to push for full legalization across the board. Even though we will have a Republican trifecta, we do need to do a lot of work to actually get the Republican Party and the GOP to really come on board with where the public is at. And so we will be continuing to mobilize our 420 Unity Week of Action. And so this will be happening around 420 this year. We'll be doing similar things that we did last year, a press conference, a giant lobby day, where the goal is always to contact every single member of Congress. And last year we were pretty close. We had about 90% of them. And so we'll be going back and doing a similar thing. One interesting note about the new Congress is that roughly 10% of the new Congress people are freshman Congress people, which means they haven't been in office before. So that's about 40 Congress people that have never had to vote on a cannabis bill, have never had to take a position, at least at the federal level. And so we'll be reaching out to those folks to really get the new generation of Congress people on board with full legalization. And one of the cool things is we will be continuing our conversations around psychedelics, and specifically decrim in psychedelics. And so for those of you in the Texas area or planning on going to South by Southwest this year, we will be leading a panel at South by Southwest specifically around the social justice promises of psychedelic decriminalization, how we can make sure that as we're having conversations about psychedelics, we're including all kinds of not just decriminalization, but also retroactive relief for folks that have already been impacted. And so we will be there in force with Ismail Ali from MAPS, Dominique Mendiola, who is the director of the Office of Natural Medicine in Colorado, and Diane Goldstein, who's the executive director of Law Enforcement Action Partnership. And so those two events will definitely be highlighting some of the amazing work that we're doing, mobilizing the country together to really push that no matter what type of administration we have, we'll be pushing for full legalization. And of course, we'll be continuing to advance all of our efforts at the state level, continuing to push in places like Hawaii, but we'll also be pushing a bit harder in places like Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a space that has not actually passed adult use legislation yet, although there have been many conversations there. So there's a lot of opportunity to expand how we do full legalization at the state level, including making sure retroactive relief is going to be a part of that adult use conversation as well. And then lastly, we will be excited to host everybody again for the Last Prisoner Project's annual gala in October. And so definitely make sure you get your tickets ahead of time. They sell out rather quickly because we're going to have a lot of amazing people there, a lot of amazing work to share with y'all. And we're super excited to get things moving again. 2024 was a fantastic and very eventful year for us at the federal legislation level. And so we're excited to bring everybody back with a new Congress, a new president, and a new opportunity to really push for full legalization. So there'll be lots to help us out with, lots going on. And we're excited to bring as many of you all with us on the journey to help make sure we're pushing for full legalization and retroactive relief across the country and at the federal level. And I'll kick it over to Stephanie, I believe, to talk about our letter writing campaign.
Yes, thank you, Jason. Hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie Shepard, Director of Advocacy with Lost Prisoner Project. And I just want to say 2024 was full of all kinds of things. So the last thing that a lot of people were thinking about was writing a letter, but we are finishing off 2024 very strong. I literally just mailed like 150 letters from just this week alone. And having that connection with the community, as we know, it really uplifts our constituent spirits during the holidays. And it's also kind of a gentle reminder for us as well, just how lucky we are to be on this side of things. So just really excited to have people reach out. It's really easy. We've digitalized it. So you can go to our website, lastprisonerproject.org, go to the Take Action page. There's letter writing tab that you can push, and you can go on and you can read the multiple stories or profiles, see the heinous sentences that these people are dealing with, and whatever sticks out to you, that may be the person you write. I just met a woman today who was pen pals with Brian Reed, and she's stayed constant with him even though he's home. So those relationships can be as full or as, just send a message as you want it to be. So you can type it out on your phone, on your laptop, or you can handwrite a letter. I'm old school, so I like a handwritten letter, but that does take a little bit of time for some people who are busy. So just punch it off on your phone. I print it out. I send it snail mail because a lot of times that is the only way that people can have contact on the outside world due to different things that go on in prison, such as lockdowns or special housing and things like that. So that snail mail is that one steady thing and everything that's going on in the world that we can send back and remind them that they're not forgotten. The policy work and all of that goes on day after day. They may not know how hard, the policy team is pushing, but the one thing that we can do as people out here is let them know what's going on out here, along with our newsletters and things like that. But the holiday letter writing is coming to an end for 2024, but it's ending with a boom. So if you haven't taken 5 or 10 minutes, go write a letter, and you'll be surprised. You may even get a letter back. So.
Well, thank you so much for that, Stephanie. And that is the last really critical piece of our constituent advocacy program, is that letter writing program. I know that so many of our constituents talk about how meaningful it is for them to just know that there are folks out there fighting for them, that they're not forgotten. So that's a really easy way for people to get involved this holiday season, really year round, and to make sure that you're making a difference in the lives of our constituents. We have a ton of other ways that you can get involved. Scan the QR codes, go to our website. Our Take Action page is a really great place to look for that. So we have a ton of ways to get involved. And we do have about 5 minutes. So if folks have any questions, drop them in the chat. But otherwise, we are so grateful to all of you. Hope that this has been really informative and helpful for you guys. And we're just so grateful for all of the support. We could not do all of this work without our supporters and the amazing folks that are helping us in this mission. So thanks to all of you. am not seeing any questions. So I think we can wrap it up there. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our amazing panelists, and we hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season and a great rest of your year.